It's time for the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in. It's the North Idaho Prepcast, breaking down everything Districts 1 and 2 each and every week on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney joined by Ryan Scaggs. What's going on, Scaggs? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Just living the dream. Had a couple weeks off, so I'm back at it and back in the saddle.
Yeah, that's right. We're throwing you right into the fire. A podcast, a North Idaho game night broadcast Friday night as well, and it's going to be a super busy time. Let's dive right into it. Football. Well, I guess we have to talk about the weather, right? The smoke. The smoke was so bad last week, pretty much everywhere except East Idaho, where I live.
Yeah.
Games got canceled. Games got wiped out. Honestly, where I live in Pocatello, the smoke was pretty bad. I personally wouldn't have chosen to play in it. I couldn't really talk after broadcasting a cross-country meet Friday and then a Pocatello High football game. I was out in the smoke all day. It was not good for me. But anyways, football got wiped out for the most part up north. I was really disappointed because in soccer, you've got like Coeur d'Alene Charter and Bonners Ferry and boys and girls, both kind of on these collision courses, and they were supposed to play, and that all got wiped out because of the smoke.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I mean, we ran into it was kind of hit and miss last minute on Friday night on who was going to get their games in. Lakeland was obviously lucky playing on Thursday night and defeating West Valley. The air quality wasn't quite so bad until I would say probably close to about 10 o'clock Friday nights, really when the smoke settled in up north. Sandpoint actually wasn't bad air quality wise on Friday. It's just that they had their game bailed out again for the second straight year against Colville. But the air quality this early this week was pretty miserable. We were in the probably 180s to 195, close to 200. Today it's 103. We had rain for probably about 3 hours this morning. So things are looking up here in North Idaho. Hopefully some of the smoke dies down with all the rainfall that we had. But yeah, definitely welcomed up here.
Definitely. So yeah, let's dive into this Sandpoint Colville thing, because this is 2 years in a row now that this has happened, where the teams agree during the spring or summer, hey, let's play. We're both pretty good programs. Second year in a row that Colville is bailed out, and then they picked up a non-district game against North Central from Spokane. So it's one thing if, because the schedule is fluid with smoke and things. It's one thing if it was like it's a district game and we have to get it in. Sorry, but this was a non-conference game for them.
It was a state of Washington game, and that's what didn't make sense to me. And the only way I really looked at it was Colville was wanting a W. I don't know, and I might aggravate some Colville fans if I don't know if they tune into our podcast or not. I doubt it. But I'm gonna probably err on the side that Sandpoint would have probably boat raced them, and just the way that the offense is built up there. I don't think it would have been a very close contest, but I think they wanted to look for the W and playing North Central, who's historically not a very good football program. So I mean, it was classification wise, it's only one off in the state of Washington, but for Colville playing North Central, or maybe two, I don't know, but the way the WIA does their classifications, they recertified every 2 years, so it's hard keeping track anymore these days. But yeah, it's a shame that Sandpoint got left out to dry and 2 weeks ahead of the game. I mean, like, you just can't do that to a team. That's just, in my mind, absolutely bogus and bush. And Sandpoint tried. I mean, they were trying pretty hard to find a game. There was only, I think, one team in the state that wasn't playing. But it's like, nobody's going to want to see a 4A versus 2A matchup where you've got a 4A Sandpoint playing like a 2A Orfino.
Yeah, the only team that was close to them that had a bye was Coeur d'Alene, and they had just played Coeur d'Alene 2 weeks ago, so that just wasn't going to work. If I'm Sandpoint, Colville, they're dead to me. I would never call them again for anything, to be honest.
Any sport, basketball, it doesn't matter. They're off the schedule forever. That's a permanent removal. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, bummer for Sandpoint, because now it's like I still think Sandpoint is the best team up north, but now when you look at polls and media polls, coaches polls, all that, Sandpoint is 0-2, right? They haven't won yet this year. Now the two losses were to Alta, Utah, good Utah program, and Coeur d'Alene. That's a tough schedule to start, but because now they haven't had a chance. I mean, we're into week 4 of the season now, and they're still sitting at 0-2. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And meanwhile, Lakeland has played all 4 weeks, including week 0. They're 4-0, and they just keep on winning, which is great for the Hawks. And for, in terms of public opinion, I think people have forgotten about Sandpoint a little bit. And in my personal opinion, I still think Sandpoint is the team to beat in that district.
Sandpoint, I really look at their games, and it's come down to drops. Obviously, not having some of their home run threats that they've had in the past couple of years definitely hurts them a little bit on the back end on the offensive side. Defensively, they're solid. I mean, they've still got a great secondary. They've got Wes Benefield there at middle linebacker, who's great, and they got Owen Wimmer back at linebacker. He's been playing really solid. Levi Ballason's been doing pretty well off the end, but it's tough. I think their pass pro, not having the pass threats on the outside, I think has hurt them a little bit. I mean, they've got Max Frank and Ari Vandenberg still, but they just need some sort of deep threat off the outside. They've have enough of the running game. They've been okay there. Obviously, I think they miss Garrett Cox a little bit more than they would allude to, because that definitely took a ton of pressure off of Parker Pettit in the passing game. And Parker's been taking some hits. And so, that's really played into things a little bit early on for Sandpoint. I think they're going to rectify the issues. The week off didn't hurt them by any means, and they'll actually probably get healthier by losing that game to Colville, or not losing the game, but not having to play that game. They're getting healthy in this as they set up for the game with Homedale. So, that's going to be an interesting matchup up here too, that you get Homedale, who's on a roll. I wouldn't, it's a cool place to play, late September, mid-September, along the lake. That's a tough place to play on a Friday night.
Definitely. And Homedale comes in 3-0. It's hard to gauge though, because 2 of the 3 wins have come from teams from other states. They beat Laguna Beach, California, and then last week they beat Baker High from Baker City, Oregon. So
yeah,
they're obviously very good. And that was a game that I'm trying to remember now. I think Homedale won that last year.
Homedale won last year in that game. That was a close game too. I think it was a 1-possession game with under 2 minutes to play. So, it's going to be a dandy of a ball game on Friday. And I think that, we briefly mentioned Lakeland, but I look at the end of the season, that matchup between Sandpoint and Lakeland is going to be absolutely, if Lakeland can continue what they're doing now with this consistency on running the ball, man, that's going to be a good matchup.
Yes, let's do it. Let's talk Lakeland, because they are 4-0, and they have, the defense has really stood out to me. They have allowed a total of 31 points through 4 games, which is, that's pretty impressive. Outstanding. That's basically a touchdown a game. They pitched 2 shutouts, 28-0 over Preston, 23-0 over Spokane West Valley last week. Really, the only game that's been tight for them so far was Lake City, and that's a 5A school, and they won that game 30-21. First time they had beaten Lake City since 2016, I think.
No, it was longer than that.
Longer than that?
Yeah, it was back into the early, I think it was 2004 was the last time that they had won that game. So,
wow.
If I'm not mistaken, it was in the mid 2000 or early 2000s. I know that for sure. But
yeah,
we didn't play them in 2016 because I was coaching there. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's that was a couple of weeks ago, and I can only keep a week's worth of data in my head, and then it goes into the recycle bin. So.
No, and it's tough. Like you look at Lakeland and their schedule. I actually like their schedule this year and the way they built things around that 0-week game against Preston at a neutral site. And West Valley historically has been a pretty solid offensive team. And, so you get to play and pitch a shutout against that. Usually it's a pretty prolific offense. They usually get fairly decent athletes coming through West Valley High School. And, you look at earlier, in the season, it was kind of an unknown on what they could do on the offensive side of the ball. Kason Lotzenheiser has been able to be a game manager, a quarterback. He can still spin it. I mean, he's got a decent enough arm, but that running game, the 2-headed monster in the backfield with Calder and
Cornish, John Cornish.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Cornish, man, they're solid. They're rock solid. Cornish is an absolutely insane athlete. He's a real slightly kind of small guy, but I mean, he's like a little pocket dynamite, man. He's 150 pounds, but he probably outlifts the majority of the team.
Yeah, and again, this, going back to last year, how the season ended for Lakeland in that first round playoff loss to Skyline, the eventual champs. It was a game they led, 70% of the way. And in the first half, John Cornish was racking up the yardage. And I always go back to this in the second half. And again, the game flow dictates it a little bit, but he carried the ball like 5 or 6 times in the second half. And I didn't think he touched the ball enough. And, I said the same thing coming off of the first game of the year for Lewiston, where they lost at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. I said Jackson Lathan, their running back, was the most dynamic player on the field, and I just didn't think he touched the ball enough. And that's something that Lewiston now last week, Lathan dominated. Yeah, they sure did. So, it's weird, but it's like, hey, if you've got a stud, give him the ball. And that's what Lakeland's doing, and it's working out great.
Yeah, pound the rock. And Lakeland's been really good at that and been able to get their playmakers in space too. I mean, utilizing the short passing game and, putting their guys. Cornish should beat a guy in a phone booth. I mean, he could juke somebody and break his ankles in a phone booth. So, I like getting their guys in space. It's going to be an interesting matchup with Coeur d'Alene's front seven. That defensive front, their D line and their linebacker core is pretty dang solid. So it'll be interesting to see what we'll have that call too on Friday night. But it'll be interesting to see what Coeur d'Alene can do with that front seven against Lakeland's running attack.
Yeah, for sure. It is our game of the week up there in North Idaho game night on IdahoSports.com. Ryan, you'll be on the call for it. It is Coeur d'Alene at Lakeland. The Vikings come in, off of a bye and 1-2 on the year. But again, those 2 losses were to Rigby and Rocky Mountain. And a lot of people would tell you those are the 2 best teams in the state right now in terms of 5A football. And they just came off of a 27-15 win over Sandpoint 2 weeks ago. I think this is a Coeur d'Alene team that is primed for the win. I think we may see Lakeland get their first loss of the season here.
It could definitely be that way. I think the game will be close. I think Lakeland's defense against Coeur d'Alene's offense will pose a threat. It's going to get into the waning moments of the game. I think that it'll probably be close through 3. I think Coeur d'Alene probably pulls away in the end of the game, just with athletes, on both sides of the ball and being able to platoon a little bit more. But this Lakeland team's scrappy. I don't count them out by any means. I think it's going to be a competitive ball game.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of what's going on in District 1 and the big game coming up this week. District 2, let's visit what was going on in District 2 this past week, where, again, I think the biggest story is Kendrick and their continued dominance. They go over to Washington, and they haven't had a home game yet, right? They've traveled all 3 of their games. They were at the 8-man classic in Middleton, and then they played Oakley in that neutral site game at Cambridge. And I guess they were home for this game on Friday night, but they played
Wilbur Creston at home. Yeah.
Wilbur Creston Keller. That sounds like a law firm.
They're typically a pretty solid program too. I mean, they're no slouches in the 8-man game in Washington.
I mean, they ran into it. They Kendrick won 74-6. I texted Coach Zane Hobart, Friday night after the game, and just asking for the score. And he said, "Yeah, we won 74-6. They basically they called the game, in the third quarter."
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, because I guess Wilbur Creston Keller had a bunch of injuries piling up, and they were they're like, "Nah, we're done."
Yeah, let's get back on the bus and go home.
We'll wave the white flag. So they only got 2.5 quarters of action in, but man, Kendrick is looking good, and now they've got a very interesting game coming up against Genesee. They're going to travel to Genesee to play the Bulldogs, a Genesee team that I'm kind of surprised, Ryan. They've really struggled here in the early going.
Yeah, and I mean, there's enough geographical closeness between those 2 programs too. It's going to be kind of cool. I like that old kind of Latah County rivalry they got going on. That Kendrick's willing to play up, which is really cool on their part. And I think it's very smart on their part to prepare for the postseason. Genesee's got their struggles, early on, and people are looking at Prairie. I'm looking at that White Pine League right now. The team that's not on that list that I'm looking at is Kamei. I think Kamei is the team to watch, that they're going to come down the stretch and really start opening eyes later in the season. But they've been playing really tough early on.
Definitely. So the league standings right now, Kamei and Prairie are both 2-0 in the league, both 2-1 overall as well. Clearwater Valley is third. They're 1-0 in the league, 2-1 overall. Troy and Potlatch are then tied at 1-1 in the league, and Troy's 2-1 and Potlatch is 1-1. So Potlatch really opened eyes by dropping 90 points on Genesee in that runaway 2 weeks ago. I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I saw 90 points in a high school football game. And then they actually played pretty well against Prairie. You know, they only lost 56-52. I really do think the White Pine is going to be wide open this year, and it's all going to be on, you know, on any given night, who shows up and makes the most plays. Big game this week in the White Pine League, to me at least, is Lapway traveling to Kuski to play Clearwater Valley. The Wildcats are sitting at 0-1 in the league. It was all the way back in the season opener against Cami in a very tight game, right? They only lost that game by 1 score. So to me, Lapway, I think, could still be a factor in the league race as well. But this is going to be must-watch football week in, week out in that White Pine League.
Yeah, it's anybody's game any week, and I look at it, you know, it's definitely, you know, you're not going to have the – I don't think Prairie wins the league this year, and I'm going to tick off a bunch of Prairie fans saying that, but I picked Cami early on, and I'm going to stick with that as my pick for the league championship, but I look at the conference, and it's just an absolute dogfight every single week. And you look at Lapway taking on Clearwater Valley. Lapway obviously was kind of the toast of the conference last year, having the Gatorade State Player of the Year. I mean, losing Sage Lone Bear, and I think Mason Brown's not in the lineup either this year. I think that those are two really big missing pieces that people are like still big on them, which I think they deserve the respect. But those are two bigger losses than I think people are willing to admit or give credit for.
Yeah, they both went to Clarkston. It was like a combo package type deal. I don't know, but
I don't know. Yeah. What did Lapway get back in the trade?
Well, I'll tell you, Lapway got Herschel Williamson from Cami. Actually, it was kind of weird. Yeah. Anyways, and now he's their main running back. So, anyways, White Pine League is going to be a lot of fun to watch week in, week out. Let's shift to volleyball, where you had, the Inland Empire League, you know, on a night in, night out basis. Here's what I've learned. Coeur d'Alene is going to win. Mm-hmm. Maddie Simmons is going to fill up the stat sheet, and that it's probably going to go 5 sets. No matter what happens, Coeur d'Alene's winning 3-2. They beat Post Falls 3-2. Moscow 3-2.
Maddie was out of the lineup, I believe, last night, and they still beat Lewis and Clark High School from Spokane. So, Coeur d'Alene, you know, even not having Maddie out there, because I think she was out with shin splints, they still get a nice win over a 4A Washington school.
It's a great win for Coeur d'Alene. And so, they beat Post Falls last week 3-2, went to the 5th set, and Coeur d'Alene won 15-11. And then for Post Falls, they're kind of the preseason favorite in the conference. Then they have to turn around and play Lewiston on Thursday, and they fall behind 2-0 to the Bengals. And you're thinking, oh man, this could be a really bad week for Post Falls. They win the next 3, 25-23, 25-18, 15-7. So they win 3 must-win sets in a row to salvage the week. And it's kind of like girls basketball last year, where all 4 teams are very good and they're just going to beat up on each other.
Yep. It's going to go down. The end of the year, it should be, I think Coeur d'Alene gets through in pretty good shape. Let's put it that way. The other 3, it's going to be a battle every single week. I look at the districts really having a big say in how the state tournament, you know, who seeds out for the state tournament, but it's anybody's game. I think every week. I think Lake City could surprise, you know, and it could be the 2 Coeur d'Alene schools going to state. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. You know, Post Falls is obviously really solid too, and they've got a solid lineup. So it'll be really, you know, and then they still have to play some of the 4A schools that like are kind of like, wait a minute, we're still here too. Like, we're not bad either. So it's an interesting scheduling, obviously, in North Idaho, that you have to play that kind of split schedule. But, you know, Coeur d'Alene, I applaud them for filling some of the holes with the Washington schools and Lakeland, you know, on the 4A side, going over to Washington and playing there. And you'll see it too from like Post Falls playing some of the Spokane schools as well. So a smart job on the scheduling there. But it'll be interesting to see how things shake up going down towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. The Inland Empire League for 5A gets 1.5 bids. So whoever takes second gets to play 5th place essentially from District 3. And I will tell you right now, I like the team up north, just like in basketball last year. Yep. I like the team up north in that matchup. Real quick, I want to backtrack to football. I had to get the official confirmation, but we will be broadcasting a second game up north Friday night. It'll be a game night on the Palouse
Ooh,
and it's gonna be that Clearwater Valley Lapway game we were talking about. So Garrison Hardy and Jason Hansen, our District 2 guys, they're going to go down to Kuski for that Lapway.
bring your fishing poles. Leave early.
That's right. They're going to be in Kuski Friday night for that Lapway Clearwater Valley game. So 2 games from North Idaho Friday night to whet your appetite there. All right, back to volleyball. Lakeland, they are once again, looking pretty solid. It wasn't that long ago that they won state, and people kind of forget about it. And of course, Skyview is the premier program now in the 4A ranks, and I think everybody's probably playing for second place, but there's no reason Lakeland couldn't go in there and do that. They go to Freeman High in Washington this weekend, and they win the Rip-a-Shot tournament. They went 6-0 at the tournament, and they beat the new high school from Liberty Lake, Washington, Ridgeline in the championship.
Yeah, no, Lakeland, I think it was just kind of, you look at, I don't want to say rotation of kids coming through the school, because I think they had a great class last year. There were some phenomenal players on that team, but it's kind of that pedigree building within the back end of, like, you see success and it breeds success, and usually you'll see more success 3 or 4 years down the road. And I think that's kind of what's going on here at Lakeland. I really look at that volleyball program, and they're going to be pretty solid this year. I think they'll have a decent showing at state. They've got to get through Moscow and Sandpoint, obviously. And Sandpoint's been playing fairly tough of late, taking a few tough losses, but they've been playing really tough in their matches. And then Moscow, has always been kind of a thorn in the side for everybody up north, 4A and 5A alike. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of shake out. But Lakeland, I look at the favorite. I think that they could easily be playing for a trophy on the second day at state.
Yeah, Moscow 2-6 overall, but man, they have been in so many matches that just 5-set losses, and so Moscow will be tricky, but Lakeland is the favorite up there. Let's wrap up with cross country. We haven't talked much cross country yet on the Prepcast. The Timberlake Invite.
I'm tired talking about it.
I know, right?
I don't run. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't mind watching other people run, but me running, no, thank you. So the Timberlake Invite was held this past week, and Anna Peters of Post Falls, not only did she win, she set a new course record, and she obliterated it. She won by 27 seconds over the previous best time. She ran a 17:38, 17 minutes, 38 seconds. That is now the top time in the state of Idaho for girls cross country as well. And just so you get an idea of the accomplishment that she put forth, the previous course record was held by Post Falls standout Samantha Wood, and we know what a great runner she is. So to go and beat Samantha Wood's record by 17 seconds, I mean, way to go, Anna Peters from Post Falls.
Yeah, that's faster than I can eat a sandwich. So that's a pretty good effort on her part. And I mean, I don't run much, if it's probably the kitchen, but yeah, that's a great effort by her, and I know they're looking for big things, obviously, come state time for cross country for the state meet, but there's been some fast times statewide. I mean, let's just be real. There's been some great efforts been put out so far this fall. And it's, I think, really turned the tide. We always talked about, like, Oregon and Washington kind of being the toast of the Northwest for cross country, and Idaho's kind of like saying, wait a second, don't forget about us, because we've had some great athletes coming out of the state of Idaho the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, and state cross country will be up north this year in Lewiston, so that'll be an advantage for those runners up north, because the elevation's a little different. So,
well, Lewiston's only 700 feet, and let's not forget about that. So at sea level. So, yeah, I mean, the Lewiston's course, I think, if they're going to utilize the levee system with all of the access that they have to the river and everything, there's some serious hills. If they can involve that in the cross country meet too, that could be real interesting. If they're running out at Hell's Gate State Park, that's going to be one heck of a course for a state meet.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that real quick. I just looked and saw it was Lewiston, and then I didn't look any further than that, like where it was going to be at specifically. But let's see.
It's at Hell's Gate. There's some serious elevation changes in that course.
Yeah, it just says Lewiston. It doesn't say the actual But anyways, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be in October. So keep an eye out for that as well. All right, Ryan, back in the saddle. We did it. We kind of ran through, this is what we're going to do each week. We're not going to have time to get to every school and every sport. We're going to kind of hit what we thought were the biggest stories overall, and we'll hit every school along the way. But I thought this went well.
Yeah, no, I think it went well for getting back in it again, and looking forward to Friday night with Coeur d'Alene taking on Lakeland. Sorry, not Lake City. Should be a good game, and then we've got a couple like the next 4 or 5 weeks. Every week we've got a dandy of a game for Friday night. So we're gonna have some awesome games coming up down the stretch.
Yes, and you can always check out what we're broadcasting by clicking on the Game Streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. All right, thanks for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast. For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on Idaho Sports.